What's up guys? Today we are on a real estate photography job shadow. We are gonna do some interior and exterior photos today. I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks, room to room inside the house, different lighting situations, different angles that I look for. Today we're gonna be using the Canon 5D Mark IV with a 16 to 35 millimeter f4 lens. We're trying out the Manfrotto 055 tripod legs with a Manfrotto 405 geared head. Let's get started. How I like to start my photo shoots in each house is I start at the entryway and kind of work my way through the house in order of how I would walk through. Sometimes the real estate agent or the homeowner will request that you start in certain places, whether it's outside or in a certain bedroom, so they can shuffle things around. That's totally fine. But if it's up to me, I kind of just work my way through so I don't miss any rooms like a bathroom or something like that. With this house, this is kind of a small mudroom area, and you can see that it has some closets down this little hallway, and there's a bathroom down there. And I'm just gonna go through and show you what I'm looking for as I take these shots. So the first thing that I would do is make sure that all the lights are on in the house, especially the overhead lights. Some desk lamps and stuff like that aren't as important, but I like to really make sure that all the overheads are on especially. So for this particular shot, I'll throw this up on the screen right now, what I'm looking at. There's a couple of closets on the side and a bathroom at the end with a pocket door, and I have that pocket door kind of open a little bit just to show that it is a pocket door, and then we'll shoot that bathroom as well. I just want to show that there's two closets and a bathroom at the end. So I will take two shots, one that is somewhat overexposed to expose for the interior, and then I'll take a shot that is exposed for the exterior so that window isn't completely blown out. What I mean by blown out windows is that they're just completely white and you can't see outside the window with the shot. As we go through the editing process, I think that'll make a little more sense. So these little half baths are a little tricky just because it's such a tight space, but I'm gonna just show you the shot that I would take with this. I'd probably just take one shot of this bathroom where I'm trying to get this window and the sink and the mirror and as much of the lights above the mirror as I can. Sometimes it's just too cramped and there's not much you can do. You just do your best. I'm shooting really wide, 16 millimeters. So whatever I can get in here, that's what I can get. Now, I'm gonna take two shots, one where it's pretty bright, so it's exposing for inside the house, and then another one that's exposing for outside the window. And when I merge those together, you should be able to see out the windows a little bit better, just so they're not completely white from how bright it is outside. So moving through the house now, the next room that we come to is the kitchen. And kitchens, and I would say the master bedroom, are the rooms that I take probably the most time in a house, mainly because they're bigger rooms, especially the kitchen. That's what people want to see when they're purchasing a house. They really want to focus on the kitchen and what it looks like, picture themselves in that space. So I spend a little bit more time shooting the kitchen than say, a kid's bedroom or something like that. For this, I want to show you what I'm looking at on my screen while I'm taking the shot. Here's what I'm looking at on my screen. I want to show you the different angles that I'm looking for and the focus points that I look for in each of the shots that I take so that I can expose for the interior and for the windows. That's one of the biggest things in real estate photography, is making sure that the windows aren't completely blown out by how light it is outside. So for this shot here, using this tripod, I can turn and get different angles here, and I can use different focus points. And this camera has a touch screen so that I can focus on the things that I want to focus on. And I want a dark spot to begin with so that you can see the difference between how bright it gets when you're on a dark focus point and when you're on a light focus point. And that's what I'm looking for, those two different shots. So one, I'll take that, and then the second one, I'll focus in on this window here to focus on the bright spot outside. I have these two different shots. One is bright and one is a little darker. And when I merge these together in Lightroom, you'll see that you can see out the windows just a little bit better than if you were just to use this bright photo. As far as the angles that I'm looking for, I want to make sure that I get this full table at the edge here. And I also want to make sure that I'm getting this whole dishwasher in there as well. One thing that I probably would actually end up doing, that I probably will do, is take out this trash can. That's just something I missed right now, so I'll probably take that out and retake these photos just so that the space is a little bit cleaner. All right, so I've taken out that trash can. We'll retake these. Want a bright photo, and then I want one. Let's see what's the best spot. Probably on this window. I want to make sure that it gets a little darker again so that I can see out those windows a little bit better. Now I'll work my way around to different spots in the kitchen, different angles, just to make sure we cover our bases and give the real estate agent some options when they load this into their system. So I'm at another angle, kind of straight on to the island and this counter area with the sink. I can catch the fridge and the microwave. Kind of everything in the kitchen is in this shot here. And again, I'll take a couple of photos, making sure we get everything. And then I'm gonna move over here. And one of the cool things about homes like this is this island makes a great centerpiece. So you can kind of gear your photos around this island. And this is gonna be a huge selling point for this house. All right, we're gonna get another angle here. So I think for this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my 5th shot just in the kitchen. I just wanna cover my bases just in case they really need a lot of different angles. I just wanna give them options. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So I just make sure I get the shots that they want. And I may overshoot a little bit, but one of the worst things that can happen, that has happened to me, is I send the photos and I get an email back saying, hey, did you get a shot of this or an angle from here? And I didn't take it. Cover your bases. If there's a question if you should take a shot or not, just take it, have it, just in case, just cover your bases. So this last shot that I'll take in the kitchen isn't for every single kitchen, but it's kind of this straight on shot to the sink and the windows. Some houses you'll say, that's probably not worth it. Sometimes it looks really nice, the sink is nice, the windows are nice, so this kind of 1 point square onto the sink and the windows is a pretty nice shot. So I'll grab that as well. So now we're moving on to this breakfast nook area. There's a table set up, and I want to show you specifically on this shot the edges that I'm looking for. I'm looking at the edge of this picture frame here and the edge of this window here. I just think that that spacing looks really nice. Now, if I were to move that over and cut off half of that window, that spacing would look a little funky. So what I want to do is make sure that that's as even as possible, and you'll probably be able to see the difference, making sure that the edges are spaced out properly. All right, for this shot, I am again doing kind of a square on shot. This table doesn't look super centered, but it is what it is. So we'll just take this bright photo, dark photo, and then I'm gonna move and see if I can grab these doors that lead to the deck outside, plus this table. I wanna make sure everything is level. And again, I'm looking for these edges, the edge of the door, as well as the edge of this wall on the right side. So one trick you can also keep in mind, if you're ever having a question on where you should set up your camera, you can always just go to a corner and take a shot of the entire space of the room. You're just trying to make the room look as big as possible. That's what people are looking for. They're looking for space. So if you don't think that you have quite a good eye yet for what's fancy or artistic, just run to the corner and take a picture of the entire room. And I do that a lot. And more often than not, it looks pretty good because you're catching so much information about the room that you normally wouldn't get with kind of more of an artsy shot. All right, I'm gonna grab one more shot for this kitchen dining room area. And it basically covers the entire room from the edge of this baker's rack here to the edge of the door that we came in, and that's just showing the entire space. So a couple things I want to show you about this room and the things that I look for. One thing that you can see, if I tilt my camera, if it's tilted down a little bit, you'll see this a lot if you look online at different real estate listings, where you can see that the lines are angled down and they're not straight up and down. And what you're looking for is that straight up and down look. And a way that you can make sure that you're getting that is that most cameras will have an internal leveler, and you can tilt up and down to make sure that you are getting those green lines and making sure that that's level, just like that. So I would take that shot right there, say I'm tilted up like that, that photo looks funky. And you can get to the point where you don't have to use this leveling system, but if you want to be sure that that's level, you can pull up your leveler on your camera just to help you make sure that those lines are straight. Another thing that I look for, again, is spacing. So I want to make sure that I'm getting the edge of that window and the edge of this shelving unit here. If I'm moved over and cutting off half of that shelf, that looks a little weird, like it's not even. Same thing on the other side. If I pan over and cut off half of that window, it just doesn't look quite right. So I want to make sure that stuff is even. I want everything to be symmetrical. So I'm going to go to all four corners of this room, take these shots here. And because this room is staged nicely with these shelves, I will take an extra shot with it square on just to show how nice it looks. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, going to the corner and taking those shots is perfectly fine. I'm in the corner looking at the piano area, looking out the windows, taking a couple shots there. Again, looking at the edge of the window and the edge of the piano, making sure it's symmetrical and I'm not losing any detail from cropping in on the piano. I'll take a shot just so you can see what I'm talking about, or it just looks a little funky. I want it to be symmetrical. I want it to look even. Sometimes there's not a perfect way to make things symmetrical, and you kind of just have to make a judgment call. So on this one, you can see I can't quite get over to the edge of the chair in that next room over there, and I can't get to the edge of this opening on this opposite wall. So what I'm going to do is kind of split the difference and get to the edge of that baker's rack and almost to the edge of that chair in the other room. Everything still looks pretty good. The piano kind of is the focal point. It's also allowing me to see into the kitchen, so I'm not too worried about how this one looks as far as symmetry goes. So I'm going to show you how quickly I move through a typical room like this. For me, it's all about being efficient and getting in and out of a house quickly so that I can go to the next appointment, get stuff edited, get everything done as quickly as possible. This is all in real time. I'm just going to go through this room and show you what I would normally do at a typical house. A couple of shots. I'll move over here. The thing that takes the longest is just adjusting to make sure that you're level and that you have your spacing good. We'll move on to the next part. I'm probably out of your frame now, but I'm just doing the same exact thing, just adjusting on the fly to make sure I have things that are symmetrical and adjusting for those windows. And then the final shot here. Make sure I'm level, so my lines are straight. And that would pretty much be it for this room. I don't know how long that took, maybe a minute or two, and then I'd be on to the next room. So actually we're gonna head up to the bedrooms now and show you a few more tips and tricks. So now we're up in the master bedroom where they've done a good job tidying things up. Everything looks clean, ready to go. We've turned the lights on and we're gonna go through all 4 corners of this room, and I may do one straight on to the bed as well. A couple of things of note when I came in, there are a couple of mirrors set up on, one's on this door here, and there's one on that wall over there. So mirrors are always a little bit tricky, like in bathrooms or even in bedrooms. So just always be aware, try not to catch yourself in a mirror. If there's no avoiding yourself being in a mirror, I would either just move your camera over more so that you're cropped out of that section of the photo, or when you're editing, you can crop the photo as well so that you're not in it. There's just, sometimes you just can't avoid it, and you gotta do your best to not be in the shot. What I'm looking at in this shot here is the edge of that mirror and also the edge of the lamp on the far side of the room. I want to get as wide as I can to show how big this space is. Master bedrooms are a big selling point, so you want to make sure that these photos are highlighting how big the space is and how nice it is. So for this shot, I am able to avoid myself from being in that mirror, but I don't love that that mirror is there. I just think it would look a lot cleaner without it there, so I'm actually gonna take this mirror off of the back of this door because it's easily removable, and I'm not, it's not very hard for me to do, so I'm just gonna do that because it's gonna make the picture look a lot better. So that's just gonna look a lot cleaner in our photo without having extra clutter. Not even clutter, it's just an extra thing that doesn't need to be there. So you kind of want that minimalist look, and that looks a lot better. So this room in particular at this spot is a little bit tricky because there are 2 small hallways here. Down this hall has closets and a bathroom, and down here is just kind of like a little nook with some shelving. In this situation, I can't quite get wide enough. A lot of times you'll find this in real estate photography, that you get backed into some tight corners, which is fine because you want to make sure that you're capturing as much as you can. And I'm going to kind of split the difference here because I want to show both of those hallways. If you couldn't quite get wide enough, I would probably just take 2 photos to make sure I'm covering my bases. So one, I would take cutting off this alcove here with the shelving, and I would take it with the hallway leading to the bathroom. And then I would take a second picture cutting off the hallway to the bathroom and showing the shelving down this alcove. And I would do that just so I would give the option to the real estate agent of what they want to highlight. This shot here doesn't necessarily show a whole lot of interesting stuff, but we're going to take it anyway just because it's showing how big the room is, even though there's not any real focal point in this particular angle, but want to make sure that we're giving options to the real estate agent. This final shot that I'll take in the master bedroom is square onto the bed. I just like it because it's symmetrical and it looks nice. One thing to watch out for in a lot of your photos is making sure that your reflection isn't in mirrors, but also that your shadow isn't being cast on the ground or on a wall or something like that. So for example, if I am not paying attention, you'll see my shadow on the ground here. So I want to make sure that I am steering clear from that window in that area. And you can see the difference. I'll also grab a quick shot of the closets in the master bedroom. There's a nice little hallway with a window at the end, so I think that's worth taking a shot of. One thing I've heard a lot from real estate agents is that kitchens and bathrooms sell homes. I used to kind of think when I first started that pictures of bathrooms weren't really that important, but it turns out that they're actually pretty important for the sale of the house. People want to make sure that they're clean, that they're functioning, that they're good. So there are a handful of shots that I try to get in every bathroom. Obviously, some bathrooms are gonna be smaller than others. They're gonna have different layouts, but I'll just show you kind of the basics for the next couple of rooms that we do. We'll do the master bathroom, and then there's also another full bath with laundry in the hallway. The first shot that I like to get is square on shot from outside the door. I don't really like to have the frame of the door in the shot, so I push in until the frame and the hinges on the door are gone. So I'm maximizing the space that it looks like in the bathroom. So that's just showing square on inside the bathroom. The next shot's similar, only I'm turning the camera towards the sink and the mirror and the lights. Again, I don't want to show this frame of the door, so I will adjust slightly just to make sure I'm cropping that out. The next shot that I like to get in the bathroom is another angled shot towards the sink and the lights and the mirror. And for this particular shot, I want to catch the edge of that window and the edge of the door. That's what's making this symmetrical. And I can get a little bit further back in this shot because of how big the bathroom is. I can get more of this vanity where the sink is, and I can see the drawers and the cupboards and things like that. Now the last shot that I'll get in this particular bathroom is a shot where the shower is. And I don't know if you necessarily have to have this shot, but if you want to make sure that people understand that this is a full bathroom with a shower, you can take this shot as well. This is the second bathroom upstairs. It's in the hallway. I'm going to do the same type of shot that I did in the master bathroom, where it's this square on shot, avoiding these frames of the doors. So I'm going to just push in a little bit until those disappear. So I'm capturing as much of the bathroom as I can without seeing the frames. Another tip is to make sure that the shower curtain is closed, unless there's something really special about the shower, like it's nicely tiled, but typically they're going to be pretty plain, so you can just keep those closed. And you can see there's a bunch of stuff on the rack above the washer and dryer. That just is what it is. There's no need for you to have to go and clean all that stuff off. Sometimes you're just going to have clutter and you just live with it, because that's not really part of your job to clean off that much stuff. If there's a few things like a rag or a towel, you can feel free to move that stuff, but when it's like that, don't worry about it. So I'll grab this similar shot to the master bathroom, where I come just inside the doorway, avoiding that frame of the door, and then I will go inside the bathroom. I'm going to take this off because I'm going to be shooting back towards the door, and again, this is just kind of an extra thing. It's easy for me to take this off and make this door a little cleaner. So this shot, I'm going to be shooting back towards the door. I'm seeing more of the washer and dryer and the whole shelving unit in the bathroom. You can do one more shot showing more of the shower curtain. I don't know if it's totally necessary, but you can always ask the real estate agent as well. And once you get to know your clients a little bit better, you'll start to understand what kind of shots they like and prefer. One final tip on bathrooms: make sure the toilet seat is down. That's like critical. That's the one thing that real estate agents and all of your clients will notice. If the toilet seat is up, that's a big no-no. So just make sure that that toilet seat is down. Another tip to think about, especially in a room that's a little bit smaller, because you're shooting so wide, you can get 3 walls in your shot. Most of the time, you're gonna kind of cut off a corner and only shoot from one edge of a wall to the second edge of the second wall. But in certain instances, you can take shots where it's actually showing 3 walls. It kind of just shows a different dimension of the room. Sometimes you can't even help it because the room is so small, you're just gonna catch that 3rd wall. Sometimes I like seeing that 3rd wall because it does make those smaller rooms look even bigger than if you just had 2 walls in a smaller room. A lot of this is subjective as well. So try different things, talk to your clients, and see what their preferences are. This angle of the room, I'm in a similar situation because it's not a huge room. I'm catching this 3rd wall here, which is totally fine. As you can see, I am shoving myself in this corner to make sure that I'm getting as much of this room as I can. And you get into some cramped spaces sometimes, but that's part of the job. You just want to make sure that you're maximizing the space. The wide angle lens is great, but if you're not far enough away to maximize that space, then it doesn't really help you out as much. So spacing and getting as wide as you can in most rooms is really what you're looking for. Some of the more detail-oriented shots, you can get closer and tighter, like in the kitchen with the sink, things like that, or a tiled shower. Maybe you get a little bit tighter on those types of details. But in general, in a normal bedroom like this, you just want to tuck yourself in the corner, get as wide as you can, and make it look as big as possible. So this is the last shot that I'll take in this room, tucking myself in the corner. One thing that I typically don't take shots of are closets. Usually the closets are used to shove everybody's stuff in. So typically I'll avoid those unless it's a fancy type of walk-in closet that they want to showcase. So as I mentioned, closets are not something that I typically take photos of unless it's some sort of big walk-in closet, and this is why. As you can see, nobody's going to want to show this on the internet, on realtor.com. This is not going to help sell this house. This is usually where people shove all their stuff from cleaning their house. So we just leave this be. One thing that you've probably noticed throughout this video is all of the blinds are open and the shades are up. And the reason I do that is just to let as much light in as possible. So as I go through the house, if I find something like this, I'll typically open it up and bring the shades up. And it does make a pretty huge difference in certain rooms that you go in. Sometimes it's super dark, and it also changes the color temperature to make it a little bit more natural looking. One other tip I have for you is if you can't get back far enough in a room with the door closed, you can actually open this door and come out a little bit into the hallway. It gives you like an extra foot or so in order to capture more of the room. Again, you want to make sure that you're not getting this door frame in the shot. Since this room is a little bit smaller, it's tougher to get that second camera in that's shooting me right now. So I'll just go through, take these photos, and show you the finished product when I'm done. Again, all the same principles apply. I'll probably end up just going to all four corners of the room. I'll throw these up on the screen right now so you can take a look at what they look like. All right, I am all set shooting this room. I think I'm done inside, but most of the time I'll ask either the real estate agent or the homeowner if there's anything else that they want pictures of inside the house before I head outside. So don't be afraid to ask. The worst thing that you can do is skip something that you were supposed to take pictures of. So double check, make sure you cover all your bases. Sometimes agents will want you to take pictures of the basement. Just remember that all the same principles apply. They may want you to take pictures of the systems that they have, electrical systems, boiler systems, things like that. But for this house, I think we're all set inside. So we're gonna head outside to take some exterior photos. For exterior photos, there's a couple things that I like to do that you can keep in mind. I like to raise the tripod all the way up so that I'm getting just a little bit extra height, because I think that looks a little better on the exterior photos. So I will do that quickly. So now that I have my tripod raised all the way up, there are 6 basic shots that I would make sure to get on exterior photos. And it's basically from each corner of the house, and then a straight on front shot and a straight on back shot. And then the rest of the photos can be more detail shots, like on the deck or the stairs leading up to the front door, any flowers or stonework that they have, or showing the yard. But having those 6 basic shots, that's like the minimum amount that you should do. So I will go around, get those 6 shots, and then focus more on the detail shots. The first shot that I'll get is from this corner. I'm still shooting at 16 millimeters because I still think that looks the best. I also will take 2 shots, one that's overexposed and then one that's exposed for the sky. And this shot in particular, because we're shooting into the sun, that's really important to get that second shot that exposes for the sky. And all of this will make more sense as we get into the editing process. You don't want the sky to just be completely blown out white bright. You want to make sure that you catch more detail in the sky so that it's blue, or you're seeing the sun rather than just white sky that's so bright that it doesn't look good. I'm gonna pull up my leveler here, make sure I'm nice and level, grab a focus point, and then I'll grab a focus point right towards the sun so that I'm exposing for that sky. So once I've taken this shot here from this corner, I'll move to the center and take a shot square onto the house here. One thing to keep in mind is that your reflection is not caught in the windows of the doors. Make sure that you're nice and level. In this particular circumstance, this may be one area where I do zoom in a little bit. I feel like I'm pretty far away from the house, so I might take a second shot, just zoomed in a little bit to show more detail of the house. But then make sure that you zoom back out for your next photo so you don't forget to get back to 16 millimeters. Now I'll come back to this corner. Now for this, I'm gonna have my camera tilted up a little bit, and I can fix this in the editing process. So the lines aren't gonna be perfectly straight in this photo, but again, we'll show you how to fix that when we edit these photos. Because sometimes you can't help it. You just don't have enough room to get back far enough, and the building is so tall, you have to tilt up to get the entire building in the frame. So now I'm gonna get this back corner of the house. I'm gonna avoid this playset for now because I don't know if this is going with the house. I'll get some with it and some without it, because if the homeowners are taking it when they sell the house, I don't want this to be advertised in the pictures. But sometimes people will leave the playsets for the next homeowner to buy if they want. So having a mixture of both is probably a good idea. Moving on to the square on to the back. I am seeing a little bit of that playset, so I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit, tilt up a little bit. Now there is a van in the background that I can see, but I think we'll be able to get rid of that van in the editing process. So come over and get our last general shot. And for this shot, I will get the playset in the shot. And I want to showcase this yard as well because it's a pretty big yard. Having the house be a little bit more off center to the right to showcase more of the yard, I think is a good idea. And all of this stuff that's in the yard, I think we'll be able to take care of that in the editing process. So now that I have those 6 shots done, I can get a little bit more detailed. So I'll go up on the deck, grab some shots from up there. I'll do some shots at the front door. It looks like they have some kind of nice landscaping out front. But while I'm back here, I'm gonna get way back in the back corner of the yard and take just like a big wide shot of the entire yard with the house, because I think they want to showcase how big this yard is. So we want to make sure that we're showing as best we can how big this yard is for a potential buyer. Now I'm up on the deck and I'm going to use the same principles that I use in the bedrooms inside. I'm just going to take photos from all 4 corners of the deck. While I'm up on the deck, I'm going to take another photo from up high over the yard, just to again showcase how big the yard really is. And that's something to keep in mind when you're going through and taking pictures of a house. What are potential buyers interested in? Your job isn't just to take pretty photos, it's to highlight what potential buyers are really interested in. How are you gonna sell this house? And that's what you need to keep in mind each time you go into a different property. For this photo out over the yard, I'm actually gonna take the camera off of the tripod and do it by hand. You can use your tripod and get it perfectly level and everything, but just for speed, I'm just gonna take it off and take that photo by hand. And I just wanna highlight how big this yard is. I'm still taking 2 photos, one that's exposed for the yard and one that's exposed for the sky. I am doing it by hand, so the pictures aren't gonna line up perfectly, but Adobe Lightroom has a way of adjusting so that those photos can come together merged properly. The last thing I'll do on the exterior photos is get a few detail shots. So there is some nice stonework here and some landscaping that's been done. Obviously, we're in the fall season as of the recording of this video. So in the spring and the summer, all this stuff would look a lot better, but people need to use their imaginations and see what's possible here. So I'll take a few of this landscaping, maybe one of that porch, and maybe the other side where that other stone is. So that's pretty much it for interior and exterior photos. There are a few other things that you could do. Make sure you talk to your client to get their expectations of what they want. There are some garden beds here. Sometimes agents like to have a shot from way down the driveway looking up. Just make sure that you talk to them about what they want and what they need. If you're thinking, should I take this shot, should I not? Just go ahead and take it. It's better to have it and not need it. In the next video, we're gonna walk through the editing process of the photos that we just took at this house. So please reach out if you have any questions, and remember, keep shooting. Swish.